Okay, this is task 3. Remove and install coolant hose of our cooling and lubrication labs. First thing you want to do is go ahead and fill in the top part. Make sure this is complete before you move on. Our objective: students will remove and install a coolant hose and determine the condition of the hose and pressure test the system after installation. Materials: you're going to need a drain pan, cooling system pressure tester, coolant with water mixture, and a vehicle. And it's probably going to happen. I'm probably going to have you just fill this up with water every time instead of coolant, just because we're going to have a lot of students coming through, and we're going to be draining and filling this quite a bit. So when you get this car, it may just have water in it. Again, wear eye protection anytime we're in lab, especially when we're doing these labs. You have to be wearing eye protection. Number 2, this engine has to be cooled. If that radiator cap is warm or hot, we're not going to touch it. We're going to make sure it's cooled down. So with engine cool, locate the coolant hose to be removed, and actually you're going to be removing both the upper and the lower radiator hoses. Make sure you get the pan under the car and loosen the radiator drain plug. This radiator drain plug. This is at the bottom of the radiator. Please be very careful because this plug is made out of plastic. It can break easily, so please be gentle. Don't really crank this down when you're done. Just make it snug when you're done, and make sure you don't lose this when you take it off. As soon as that water is done draining, go ahead and pop that plug back in there, so we have less risk of losing that plug. Okay. So once it's drained, once you have this water in the pan, go ahead and loosen both hose clamps and the side, both hose clamps, and slide the hoses off. Now, depends on what kind of car you have. Some are screw-on type clamps, some are spring type clamps. You're going to have to see what kind you have and then what kind of tools you're going to need. The car, I believe most of you will be doing will be a spring type clamp, so you're going to need some pliers in order to open up that spring and be able to move that clamp off. Also, what you're also going to need is what's called a pick tool. This is going to go between the hose and the radiator neck or the outlet on the engine to kind of break that hose loose. Without this tool, it makes it very difficult to get this hose off. So you're going to need at least both those tools as well, as part of your materials. The other thing I'm going to have you do is also remove the thermostat on the car as well. And so you're going to need a ratchet and the correct socket for that thermostat neck. So we're going to go ahead and take that off as well, and you're going to show me all 3 once you get them off. Okay. The other thing you're going to do with that thermostat is you're going to take that over to a thermostat lab that's going on, and you're going to drop that in the hot water very carefully. The students with thermostat lab should be able to explain to you how it works and what you're looking for to see if that thermostat is working correctly or if it's defective. So once you have that down, once you've completed that with thermostat, you're going to bring everything back over and go ahead and reinstall the hoses and the thermostat and the thermostat housing, as well as clamps back on the hoses. You will be marked down if you leave the lab without my permission and you leave a clamp loose, or you just take off because you didn't feel like putting things back together. You will be marked down on the lab for that. This is one of the labs that tends to happen on, so you need to make sure that you are on task, you're working correctly, working efficiently, and that you do a complete job, not a halfway job or 90% job, but you complete this lab 100%. So once your hoses are tight, once the clamps are on, go ahead and fill it back up with water for the next group. We should be able to pour what's back in, what is in the drain pan back into the radiator. Shouldn't be too contaminated with dirt or debris, that kind of thing. We're going to put that back in. Okay. So your recommendations: Replace hose, you're going to look at what kind of condition the hose was in and then give us recommendations. Do we need to replace it, or is there no service required? And just write that right here. And then explain why. Why did you choose replace hose or no service required? Also right here, you need to put what the pressure should be when you check the cooling system with the coolant tester. Again, that's going to be located on the radiator cap, how much pressure that radiator cap can take. And then you're going to note any leaks or problems that you ran into. Okay, so this one's, it'll take some time. Take your time, be very careful, and you should have a lot of fun with this one. Okay, get my signature when you're done, and we'll look it over, and good.
So for this lab, here's our two hoses we're going to take off. We're going to take off our upper hose, and I don't know if you can see this, but we've got a lower hose. You can barely see it here. Lower hose down here as well. Both of them are going to come off. The first thing we need to do is go ahead and drain the radiator, and there's a plug at the bottom of the radiator that I'll show you in just a minute. We're going to go ahead and unscrew that, drain the coolant into the pan, and try and keep it clean, because we're going to reuse that coolant in here. We're not going to just dump that out and put new coolant in, because we're going to be running through a lot of labs. We don't want to be wasteful with our coolant. So after we drain the radiator, we have a couple special tools. This one is a special tool made for undoing these type of clamps. These are spring type clamps. We have another type called the screw type clamp, which you can tighten, but this is kind of stock from the factory, so we're going to keep with these right now. We're also going to need this tool right here, and this tool has kind of got like a hook on the end, just like that. Okay, and this is going to help us get the hose off. So how this works is we get this end and we place this on top of the spring, and we take our handle right here. So we do it this way. Okay, and then take our handle and then squeeze this. As we squeeze, what happens is, as we squeeze, that opens the clamp here, and now we can actually kind of just slide the clamp back off the radiator. You can also take the tube off, but I prefer to move the clamp back first if you can. I have to kind of wiggle it a little bit. So we're just going to go like this. And that'll come off like that. That came off actually pretty easy. Sometimes it doesn't come off that easy. To release this, you're going to push this little button right here. As you squeeze, push this down, and that will release the spring. Same thing on this side. Go ahead and squeeze, pull the clamp back onto the hose. Again. Okay. And then push your button here. That will release this tool to get this off. And then we can pull this off. Okay. Now, this may not come off very easily, and it feels like it's stuck, and it is in a way. Okay. If it doesn't come off easily, what you can do is take your pick tool here, and you don't want to stab the actual rubber of the hose, but you want to get this and get it in between the hose and the neck coming off the engine, and just kind of take it and go around between the hose and the neck to kind of break that seal. Once that's broken, you can kind of do this at the same time and kind of work this off. All the way around. See, this is not, you don't want to really pull the hose too hard, but as you're going around, apply some pressure. Be pulling as you're working this around the net coming off, and then give it a little twist at the end, and that'll come off. Okay. You want to inspect this, make sure it doesn't have any cracks, it's not bulging anywhere, it doesn't have anything unusual. And once you have this one off, you're going to go ahead and do your lower radiator hose the same way. Go ahead and slide the clamps down towards the middle of the hose, and we're going to take off the lower hose as well. Okay. Come show them to me, reinstall it, the hoses, and then refill with coolant and top it off. And that will be the end of the lab.